pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first thing on our agenda tonight is something that always pleases us, and that's accolades. Superintendent Riley.
And I'm going to invite Principal King to the
Right to the podium. Okay, I didn't. Yes. So, always happy to be here for occasions such as this. So, the school committee, Superintendent Riley and I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Mount Hope High School senior Laura Deal on her outstanding performance on the 2021-22 PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Her performance on this has earned her recognition from the National Merit Program as a commended scholar, so we want to congratulate Laura on her. Congratulations, Laura. Next, the school committee, Superintendent Riley and I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Benjamin Rosea on his outstanding performance on the 21-22 PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, known as the NMSQT. His performance earned him recognition from National Merit Program as a semifinalist, which allows him to continue in the scholarship competition. So congratulations, great work. Congratulations, Ben. Next, the school committee, Superintendent Riley and I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Mount Hope High School junior Vic Bullard on their selection to the 22 National Association for Music Education's All National Honors Choir. Vic was one of 15 Rhode Island students to make the All Nationals this year. Vic traveled to National Harbor, Maryland as a representative of Mount Hope High School, where they were chosen to be a soloist to open the concert. It's also noteworthy to mention that Vic is a three-time All-State musician. So great work and congratulations. Congratulations, all of you. I'm really proud of our students in our district. All right, moving on, we're going to switch up again, and we're going to do, I think we'll do public comment because we only have one public comment. Mr. Hewitt.
Well, first, Madam Chair, let me congratulate John on that. Marge is probably reluctant to boast about her oldest son, John, but I've known him for years as a little kid. I think he's currently the water polo coach out of Bucknell University, and so well done, John. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to Carly Reich for her re-election, and to the newly elected members of the committee, Jessica Almeida, Adam McGovern, and Kyle Jackson from Warren. And thank you to those who have served and have decided not to seek re-election. Victor, my arch nemesis, Sheila Ellsworth, and Erin Schofield. In the limited time I have to speak in this public speaking segment, I would like to address my concerns about the necessity and desirability of the social, emotional, behavioral education curriculum. It is my personal opinion, supported by credible education sources, that SEL is neither necessary nor desirable. Superintendent Riley and I have discussed the pros and cons of SEL. We choose to disagree as to the merits of time spent on this curriculum rather than focusing all of our teachers' time on advancing the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic, history, and civics. God knows our recent national report card and ICAST results reflect our failure in achieving greater excellence in educating our students. Ms. Riley has decided on pursuing the professional development curriculum of Second Step. My limited research of this SEL curriculum indicates it is closely aligned with another teaching training curriculum known as Learning for Justice or Teaching Tolerance, which in my opinion is clearly focused on the insidious indoctrination of critical race theory ideology. And I should add that the professional development program, a curriculum of teaching justice, was previously provided to the teachers of Bristol Warren School System under Dr. Bryce's superintendentship a couple of years ago. Not a good idea as far as I'm concerned. It is my sense that this SEL focus detracts from teachers' time being spent on basics and constitutes a Trojan horse for the insidious indoctrination of critical race theory, which I also believe is closely linked to the insertion of the diversity, equity, and inclusion ideology, which I oppose. I urge all committee members, old and new, to do their due diligence on the matter of SEL, Second Step, and teaching tolerance, aka Learning for Justice. I would add to this request that each of you to think long and hard whether the Bristol Warren Regional School District system really needs a director of multi-tiered support services, which sounds more to me like a rather glorified SEL administrator promotion position of a person who was about to have her position as principal of our high school not renewed. I see that as an issue that should concern all of you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hewitt. We're going to presentation time, but we're going to move the appreciation presentation till the end of the meeting. So we're going to go on with our district assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new school committee members who are in the audience. This is our annual presentation of state assessment results, and schools will be doing similar presentations for their school improvement teams and for families. The results we are looking at are from last spring, and as I go through, please feel free to ask for clarification, and I'll stop along the way for questions. This is an overview of what we'll cover this evening. And first, I'd like to take a few moments to share some national trends related to student achievement and remind us of our own context over the past couple of years. In Rhode Island and Massachusetts, students experienced a slight decrease from 2021 to 2022 in reading and had a slight increase in mathematics. National studies on the effect of COVID-19 show younger students were more affected than older students, who are better able to self-regulate learning. Relatedly, research confirms that scaffolding that's provided by teachers within the classroom in person is critical to learning, especially for our younger students. Overall, the results that you'll see this evening show the need for continued focus and acceleration to achieve our district goal of 75% proficiency by 2027. Given the challenges of COVID-19, virtual learning, challenges of consistent attendance over the past 2 years, and unfinished learning, we are so proud of the work that our students and teachers, teacher leaders, coaches, and administrators are doing in the classroom each and every day, as well as the continued support of families, school improvement teams, and helping us to close achievement gaps and ensure that every child has the opportunity to reach grade level proficiency. We do have a few highlights to celebrate this evening, as well as the reality of the work ahead of us in order for us to reach the goal of 75% by the year 2027. The Rhode Island State Assessment Program is composed of the following assessments, and state assessments are administered to fulfill the testing requirements outlined in the federal Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. Today, we will focus on the results of the 2022 RICAS, PSAT, SAT, and the NGSA, which is our science assessment. The data from state assessments gives teachers, students, and families information about student progress, school performance, and how to improve teaching and learning. And we begin with English Language Arts, otherwise referred to as ELA. As we look at the ELA results, you will see a drop as mentioned earlier. There are two important factors to consider. First is that Massachusetts, who makes our RICAS assessment, adjusted the cut scores last year back to the pre-pandemic levels, making it more rigorous for a student to reach proficiency. Secondly, we want to call out that we are in our first year of a new ELA program, or we were last year when these assessments were taking place, and it's very common to see a dip in achievement as a new program is implemented and teachers become accustomed to the new program and the practices. Despite these challenges, there are a few bright spots that I will point out in our ELA results. First, I want to begin by just describing or having you take a look at the achievement level descriptors for RICAS. And again, this is the same assessment that's given in Massachusetts. Here you will see the 4 achievement levels that are used to report student progress: exceeding, meeting, partially meeting, and not meeting. Achievement levels are important because they let teachers and parents know if a child is meeting the learning expectations for the grade level. And when a child is partially meeting, it means that they're meeting some of the standards, but not all, and that additional instruction is needed. The RICAS also gives us a student growth percentile. You see that at the top right corner of the slide. And that tells us if the student is making growth that's comparable to his or her peers in the previous 2 years. Today, we're going to focus just on the proficiency portion of the reports. There's a great deal of information that's available for people who want to dig in deeper to all of this. It's on the Rhode Island Department of Education data portal site, and I've included that link at the end of the presentation. Here we see the last 3 years of results for the elementary level, and this is combined across all schools. You'll notice that in 1920, there's no listing there, and that's because the RICAS assessment was not given due to COVID. Next to the years, you'll see the participation rate. Schools are expected to have 100% participation as part of the school ability requirements. Following that, you'll see red, yellow, green, and blue, and that indicates the percentage of students at each achievement level. The last column shows the percentage of students who meet or exceed the standard. It's the green and the blue combined. I know it's a little difficult to see, so essentially we want to look at the last column to see what the overall proficiency was for students who met or exceeded the standard. The ELA assessment is composed of 2 different sessions that students take. They run between 90 and 120 minutes for each session. As I go through the slides tonight, I will make some highlights known to you. In the elementary that you see here, the highlights shown on the far right with the yellow star are just to call out that Colt Andrews, grade 4, Gutierrez, grade 3, and UCole, grade 3, have met or exceeded their pre-pandemic scores. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Gutierrez, who went from 64% proficient to 72% in grade 3. And those are some of the highest scores within the state. In the appendix of your handout, I have included the results for each elementary school as well as some other information. Taking a look at the middle school ELA results, we see that 6 and 7 had a slight decrease, and grade 8 had an increase from the previous year. This reflects the hard work of teachers and the ongoing collaboration from our K through 8 ELA coordinator and our ELA curriculum leader, Missy Bernard, and as well as the building administration is getting our new curriculum in place and making sure that teachers have the training and support needed to fully implement it. Next, we'll go to the high school and we'll take a look at the results there. One of the greatest bright spots in the ELA results was a significant increase in our SAT results. It was a 24% increase, and it's the highest growth within the state. So we're very excited about that and very appreciative of the hard work. And we want to congratulate our English department and the school administration for the strategies that were implemented to ensure that every student was ready for the SAT assessment, and to the students for all of their hard work. This was quite an accomplishment, and we're so proud of the students that took this seriously and put in their very best effort and showed us what they're able to do. So that was very exciting for us to see. And the last slide for ELA, I just wanted to show a comparison across districts. I think it's important to note that there's no district in Rhode Island that is at 100%. And although we have a way to go to get to 75% proficiency by 2027, we are on our way. This slide shows the comparison across East Bay districts, and Bristol Warren is third among East Bay districts when it comes to our ELA results. So I'll pause there for a moment to see if members of the school committee have any questions or need clarification on anything.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind. It goes back a couple pages. Oh, it goes back a couple pages.
Okay.
Just give me 1 sec. Just a quick question. On the page that has the indicators for exceeding, meeting, et cetera, expectations, we're in the part where it says RICAS cut score for proficiency were adjusted for spring 2022 to become more rigorous. Why did they do that following a pandemic when they would have anticipated learning loss?
We wondered the same thing. I'll let Superintendent Riley address that.
Sure. So I did attend the New England Superintendent's Conference where the Commissioner of Massachusetts spoke about this. And so what he presented to his Board of Education, the Massachusetts State Board of Education, were the same cut scores as last year, the COVID cut scores, which were adjusted because of COVID. And what they felt was that parents needed to see the true picture of where students were in comparison to pre-pandemic and now what we're calling post-pandemic, a year out from there. And so they did not want to hold on the lowered cut scores because they didn't feel like that was a true reflection of where kids were from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic.
What are your thoughts on that? Are you willing to
I don't disagree. I just wish they hadn't done it last year. If they had just kept the scores, we would be able to do an apples for apples publicly. We can internally because we can look at raw scores and look at where our raw scores are, but it will not show up on accountability because accountability will reflect what this year's cut scores are. Remember, accountability was waived last year, so we didn't get a rating. This year we'll be getting a rating, and they'll be based on these scores. If they were going to go back, I wish they would have just kept them the same.
Yeah.
We would have just taken the hard hit last year too, but.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Have you looked at the raw scores?
Have we looked at the raw scores? Yes.
Yep.
I mean,
Is that information that can be shared publicly or?
so you can only see your own child's. We could share what the raw scores are. Those are on this website. You can look it up via raw score or proficiency. We just chose proficiency because it's the easiest to see. The raw scores, if you see our average is 500 or 400, that doesn't mean as much to folks, so we use the percents. But we can look at the website on the link that Diane's sharing. You can see the raw scores, and that's what we're looking at because then you can see the trajectory. So we definitely have some room to grow. I think you'd see that the results are pretty comparable to what the scores look like now.
Okay.
Again, I do think that we are making gains and improvements, and we have some things to lean on, like in addition to the curriculum that we adopted last year. Remember, we also trained all of our K-1-2 teachers in under all the legislation for right to read. So now we've got all those students who have been with teachers who are undergone all that training, and now they're coming up. So we should continue to see gains and growth as we get deep into year 2 of implementation of our new reading program, and then have more teachers this year. All of our grades 3 to 5 teachers are being trained in right to read. So in the next 2-3 years, we should see our numbers continue to increase. I think getting to 75 will be easy. I think by the time we get to year 4, we'll be looking at how we can adjust, because I do think that we have lots of good things happening and lots of progress happening that don't show in this year's scores, but we should see in the upcoming scores. And Diane's going to move into math, and you're going to see a nice positive trajectory for math that we hope ELA will align with as we move forward.
All right.
And by the way, this looked the same across the state.
That's what.
Yeah, we're not outliers.
Yeah.
Across the state, everyone had this dip.
Yeah.
And we'll go over the strategies in place for English language arts and math and science at the end. All right, so let's move on to math. And again, we're looking at the RICAS, PSAT, and SAT results. The math for RICAS is, again, 2 sessions, approximately 90 minutes each. In grades 3 through 6, calculators are not allowed. And in 7 and 8, they're only allowed on certain portions of the assessment. So as I mentioned earlier, we did have greater gains in mathematics. District results show that grade 4 and grade 5 have exceeded pre-COVID levels. Again, these results that you're seeing here are for all elementary schools combined. At the individual school level, there are many gains from the prior year, and we had a positive trajectory for growth all around. And just highlighting grades 4 and 5, again, getting us back to or exceeding pre-COVID levels. So we are on the right path as far as closing those achievement gaps. At the middle school level, we saw increases at all grade levels from the prior year, including a 17% increase for grade 6. Also noteworthy for grade 6, you can see that the middle school has decreased the percentage of students who were in red. Those are students who are considered to be more than 2 years below. So not only are we increasing proficiency all around, but we're also helping those students who had fallen behind. It's also, excuse me, important to note that the middle school is in year 2 of implementing a research-based math program called Illustrative Math in grades 7 and 8. And it's wonderful to see the progress that they're making and the hard work of teachers in adapting to the new curriculum. And again, we have a long way to go, but we're very optimistic with the results and seeing that we are making progress. Here we see the results for math. There was a minimal increase from the prior year in both PSAT and SAT. And similar to the middle school, the high school has also adopted a new math program, and they are in their 2nd year as well. So there's a lot of training that needs to take place and a lot of changes to practice in order for us to realize the benefits of the new curriculum. When we look at our comparison across the East Bay districts, again, we rank 3rd. And I will pause there for questions on math.
I've got another one.
No? Good.
Can I ask a question on math?
Yes, I didn't realize that she was finished. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No
Go
worries.
ahead.
I was just wondering how to look at how we should think about the page where it says KMS math grades 6 to 8. I noticed that in more than one area, but if you look at grade 8 from 2021 to 21-22, looks like I'm guessing that's the participation rate there on the left.
Yes, it is, yep.
Goes from 88% to 99. So how are we supposed to think about that in terms of these numbers?
So that's important to note because the participation rate hurts us in the sense that it doesn't give us a true picture of what our students can do. So oftentimes schools will look at who did not participate, what were the barriers to their participation, and we don't know for sure how our results would look differently. But I do know that last year the middle school did a tremendous job in increasing participation and increasing student motivation to do their very best on the assessment. So it is an important factor for our schools to consider.
And just in 2021, you still had some kids who were remote and maybe didn't remember these had to be in-person tests, so they may not have wanted to come in person. I wasn't here. I'm making an assumption because I know we did have some students who were remote, and that may have had an impact on how many kids came in.
Anybody else have any questions?
Just to follow up on that, it does say, I spent some time on the RIDE data portal this week, and it does say on there, it specifically says, if there is a dramatic shift in participation, be careful how you read this data, like it's an important variable.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to science. So these are the results of the next generation science assessment. And you can see the results here for all schools. The assessment is given after RICAS, ELA, after math, and schools have to work really hard to keep our students engaged and motivated to now take a science assessment. So it's given in grades 5, 8, and 11, and you can see the results here for the past 3 years. And we were very excited with the results. Obviously, we still have a lot of work to be done and a lot of progress, but considering that for the past 2 years, our focus has really been on dealing with the impact of COVID and also prioritizing time for ELA and math. So science was extremely difficult for teachers to teach remotely, especially when we're looking at hands-on science experiments and things like that. So I think everybody was pleased that the results were better than we had anticipated. And again, our comparison across East Bay districts, as predicted, we are third among our East Bay counterparts. Any questions on science?
Well, I have one.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a question so much as a comment. It just, like, the Hugh Cole number really pops out. And I'm just wondering if there's anyone at the table who might have any thoughts on why that would be so significantly different from the others.
Well, you can only see the average of grades 3, 4, 5 in ELA and math, but I will tell you that literacy and fluency scores in English certainly have an impact on science because the readability level has to be appropriate. So when you look at the breakdown by school and you see the ELA scores for Hugh Cole, you'll see that then they run pretty comparable to what their science scores are. So you have to look at them in totality. So we didn't average them out on this sheet, but had we, you would have seen that the numbers end up being pretty comparable with what our other scores are.
I'll also add other factors that we look at are staff turnover. If we have new staff in a position trying to learn curriculum, especially at the elementary level, where you're learning how to teach ELA, math, science all together, that is a big component. So it is something that we are looking more into this year, and we've had a number of conversations with the UCOL administration. We're also looking forward to a new science curriculum, which along with that comes a lot of professional development. So our goal in looking at the results are to make sure that all teachers in all of our schools have the expertise and experience to be able to be effective and for all of our schools to be successful.
But all of the elementary schools currently are teaching the same
Curriculum.
science
Yes.
curriculum.
Yeah. One of the things that we found coming out of COVID was that there were differences in the amount of minutes of instruction provided in different schools for each subject. So this summer, Superintendent Riley and I met with the elementary principals, and we came up with an instructional plan for elementary that spells out the number of minutes per subject per grade level. So that's one way for us to make sure that there's room in the curriculum for science across all of our schools. Thank you.
Vic has a question.
I have to say that I'm rather impressed with the increase at Terrace. But do you have any reason why there was such a decrease at Rockwell? I mean, there's a 20% drop at Rockwell with a close to 20% increase at Terrace. And you're telling me it's the same curriculum, is that correct?
It's the same curriculum.
Then, I mean, it's the same year, same curriculum, two different schools. What is the reason?
Well, remember, those are different groups of kids, right? So the fifth graders from last year are a different group of kids than the fifth
Yes.
graders from this year. And I don't know what their impact was in 2021 on how many kids were remote in one school versus the other. So we're still combating some of that data, from what was it like in 2021, which wasn't a normal school year, even though we were back from COVID. So really, to have good trend data, I would say it's this year and the next 2 years. Those 3 years will better give us what consistent data looks like. So this really makes it kind of hard to make comparisons, first because different fifth grade, different group of kids, but also because 2021 just was a weird year. So it might have been that the kids who took the test, and I don't have the participation rate in front of me for that group at Rockwell, we don't have it on here. So it might have been that Rockwell participation was down, that more kids were remote. I don't have those numbers up for comparison, so we could do a little more in-depth review of what the difference was.
Well, it just strikes out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big difference in the two.
Tara has a question.
So going on what you just actually said about each class, it's a different, we're testing different groups of children. Do we track that information? So do we actually follow a class? So do we follow the class of 2027 and look at how they have either increased or decreased their RICAS scores over the course of time?
You can look in your appendix, and Dr. Santa has put together a chart that does give you the longitudinal data. It's just very messy to look at up on the screen, so we didn't put it in the presentation, but it's in your appendix. We do track the kids from one grade to the next. Remember, science is a little different because it's in grades 5, and it's cumulative science. It's not just what they learned in 5th grade. It's the standards they've learned up to 5th grade, and then same thing for 8th and same thing for 11th.
Anybody else? Yes, Nick.
I just, there is so much data here, and we're looking at it from the most simple, off the top. And I think that there is so much to be learned, not just from, the high level that we're looking at, but as Tara said, comparing year on year. Like, for example, I went in because I was first of all looking at the outliers and the SAT results of this year's seniors and ELA. And I went back and I pulled the RICAS ELA results of that same group of kids. And so I compared this year's seniors' SAT results with last year's seniors and their RICAS in 8th grade with last year, the older kids' RICAS in 8th grade. And those two sets of kids in their 8th grade RICAS were comparable. So something happened in high school that made one group of kids accelerate to this 74% and the other group of kids did not. Same group of kids, 8th grade, their results were exactly the same. They were both 51%. So my point, I guess, is that we can dip into this data and do comparisons all day long and learn so much. Do you have the time and capacity to do as much digging into this data as we need to do?
So I think we do it at a very general level at the district, but I know Last week, I met with the English department at the high school. I met with all the staff and the department head, and I know they look deeply at the data and longitudinally what's happening for kids and what they can do to make those improvements. And we are having those conversations. I know when we talk a little further in the agenda that Mr. Morel is very excited about his freed up time to look at all this data now. So we definitely don't have as much time as we'd like, but that's something we're working towards as an admin team. As I mentioned to the committee, we're in training together to do instructional rounds, which is really going into classrooms and helping each other to support and lift up the work that's happening within our schools to improve instruction and to improve our outcomes in literacy and math. That is definitely a work in progress. I think there's, if you've been on that website, there is so much to dig into.
Yes.
We haven't even broken it down for you in terms of subgroups, but looking at how our students with IEPs are doing and looking at our students who are MLL and just looking at that data and what we can do to improve those scores. So there are so many components that we haven't touched on in this presentation. That's work that, again, as we do it at a district level, Dr. Caldwell, Dr. Santa, and myself, also the principals are doing that with their team. And that's really the work of the school improvement team, is digging into the school's data and what they need to do to increase those proficiency levels. So I think that's something that now has become more of a focus for us, particularly around the legislation and the change in school improvement teams and what's required, and having the schools write their new school improvement plans in alignment to this work. It requires that they do a data root cause analysis to determine where they need to do that work.
Yeah, because this data tells a story that's different once you dig into the variables, like you pull, once you look at the makeup of those students.
And I will say for parents will receive individual scoring reports for their own child, which also just show them longitudinal data for their own child and what their child's growth is. And I will say this year, we're excited, we haven't seen them yet, but there'll be a QR code and a link in Aspen for every child's RICAS score. You can watch a video about your child's particular score and what it means. So parents can really start to understand what those RICAS scores mean. I know, I'm excited to see it. Every kid's gonna have an individualized video, so those will be neat. But that, again, we just want to help parents also look at the data for their own child so they can look at what that looks like in terms of growth and over time, how their child has improved.
Yep. So we stick the course.
Yep.
Stay the course. Yep. And I'll also add that we have K-8 ELA coordinator, Mary Cabral, who's a wizard with data and has already been diving in with our achievement coaches, reviewing the data by school with schools, and also our K-8 math coordinator as well. So they've been deep into the data and looking at the item analysis and the release items, and that information has gone out to schools. So it's a work in progress because there is so much data to look at.
Yeah.
So I'll briefly sum up just by highlighting some of the strategies that we have in place to accelerate learning in ELA this year. And some of this was already in place last year, but we're full force this year. So again, we have new ELA curriculum, and we're providing professional development to teachers. And again, as Superintendent Riley mentioned, we have every teacher in the district engaged in the science of reading and structured literacy. Our K-5 teachers are required to demonstrate proficiency in this, and this is a 2-year course. It's the equivalent of a master's level course, and everyone that I speak with has so many positive things to say about it and how it is impacting their practice. So we're very excited about that. And again, our coaches are working hard along with teachers, working with them in the classroom, modeling lessons, modeling strategies, addressing their questions, helping them to look at their own classroom assessment. We've also prioritized instructional time, as we mentioned earlier, and we've added a daily acceleration block for ELA, and also at the middle school, we now have an ELA workshop period. And that's for all students, whether you need intervention or you're ready for enrichment, that time is there. And then also we have an SAT prep course that's been added to the high school. We're also increasing our use of evidence-based tools and providing teachers with training in those tools so that they can close gaps early on. We have after-school programs in some of our schools and planned in others. And also, we've increased our special education collaborative classrooms to provide more support in class for core instruction. So those are the things that we have in place in ELA. And the strategies in math are very similar. Ongoing professional development for new curriculum to make sure that it's implemented properly and teachers have the understanding and the resources that are needed. Also, increased use of our iReady assessment system and the intervention tools within this. And this is very helpful when we're looking for strategies to put into the acceleration block and for the workshop period at the middle school. We've also increased time. I don't think it's on here, but at the elementary level, we didn't have common planning time where teachers of the same grade level could get together and review assessment data and dive deep into it. So that's been added this year as well. The elementary principals were able to make some schedule adjustments so that we have that. So that's some time during the day in addition to coaching that they receive. We're hoping next year to be able to add 2 achievement coaches in math, similar to the model that we have for reading. And then lastly, science, considering all of the work that we have going on in ELA and math, we're on hold temporarily for any major initiatives in science. In addition, at the national level, there's work that's been going on to review published science curriculum. So far, only a couple of curriculum that are out there meet the criteria for high quality instructional materials. We'll be involved in that process, working with the state in looking at the curriculum and looking for the right fit for us, as well as piloting some curriculum. Some of that is already going on at the middle school level. We have a team that's been involved in a year-long professional learning experience with the Department of Education, piloting some curriculum along with other school districts. And as we move into next year, we'll organize a district team and we'll engage in this process and provide professional development. And similar to ELA and math, it will be a multi-year plan to support learning and the implementation of new materials. In addition, next steps, Superintendent Riley mentioned that families will soon be receiving their student reports, and there will be a QR code. It'll be a paper report that will come home, and the QR code will give you access to a video describing the results in further detail. Our grade level teams and school improvement teams will continue to analyze the data, and we'll disaggregate the data by subgroups so that we can monitor the progress of all of our students. And the results are used in conjunction with school-wide and classroom assessments as a comprehensive view of student achievement. So I'll just close by saying, while state assessment results are an important indicator of how well our schools and our district are doing to ensure all students meet grade level standards to be ready for college and career, they are only one snapshot of student success. There are multiple data points that we look at throughout the year, and multiple ways that we look at students' successes, not just in ELA and math, but in other academic areas as well. Athletics, the arts, and STEM learning. And also it's important to remember that the assessment results that we're looking at today, they don't reflect all of the work that is going on. So I hope that I've explained some of that to you all so that you can see that we are making progress. Everyone is working exceptionally hard, and we're confident that we're on the right path. So thank you for your support in all of this as well.
Thanks, Diane. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
So we talked about the classrooms, QCOL being substantially lower than the other elementary schools. Are teachers allowed, or do teachers use supplementary materials that are not necessarily in the curriculum, but they utilize in their classrooms?
That is a great question. One of the things that we found is when there are too many supplementary materials being used, that they're not as effective in reaching the standard. So our math curriculum at the elementary level is a research-based program, and it has multiple tools available within it that are research-based and that will address learning loss. And they're right there for teachers, and they're connected to our assessment data. So what we're doing this year is we're providing more training and coaching for teachers in the use of those tools first that we know have been vetted. And then if there is an identified gap in a resource and we need other tools, our K-8 math coordinator is researching that and bringing that to the table.
So what are we identifying if teachers are, like, at Gutierrez, this classroom is doing or using these programs and they may be beneficial to other schools? Is that information being shared?
Yes, through our K-8 math coordinator, he is sharing tools across schools. And again, we're really focused on making sure that we have the right tools in teachers' hands. There are a plethora of resources out there and so many different things on the website that are easy to pull and use, but not effective and not research-based. So we're trying to guide teachers in using the most effective tools and also targeting the specific skills that students need. So with our data, we can dig right down to the specific skills that students need to work on to be proficient. And now we're aligning the resources to those needs. But yes, there is sharing across the district. And we recently had a professional development session. And that was part of that, is looking at the tools that we have available in the district.
So it would be relevant to say that the coaches are looking at this, the district coaches are looking at this data, they're looking at the classrooms that have had success, and they're sharing those resources with other classrooms.
Yes, we are, and also with elementary principals so that they can see. So there's a big component is not just the resource that you're using, but how it's being implemented and the amount of time that a teacher is using. So all of that is being looked at and working from the successes that we do see in the district and really finding out what is that classroom teacher doing to be effective and what do they see as the most effective tool that they're using. So again, we have a lot of tools within the district. At this point, it's about how we're implementing the tools and the training and support that teachers need.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, are you sure?
My question is just, with all of these numbers and this data, how do we think about when a student's test scores don't seem to align at all with their performance and comprehension in the classroom?
So remember that, as Dr. Sanders said, RICAS is one measure. We also use iReady, which has a RICAS predictor built in it. So we can also measure where students are beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. Students who might be in a tier 2 or a tier 3 might do additional testing so that we can progress monitor them. So we're also using our own internal assessments. For the most part, the predictors for our grade levels were pretty close. You know, they were only off in a couple of places, which could be randomized according to exactly what you said. A couple of kids might have had a bad day on one test or the other, and so the scores, but the scores were pretty close. The alignment was pretty close to the predictor, so our kids are performing on the RICAS the way they're performing on our interim assessments throughout the year. So that helps us kind of predict where kids are going to be and also where we need to make some improvements. And I was remiss in even mentioning our literacy coordinator, our math coordinator, because they are looking all the way down to the standards and talking to staff about, like, these are the standards that we need to focus on because they will improve the most students across the board, where we need to raise the level of work that the achievement where students are. So they really are digging down, not just to the test score, but even to the standards so that we can focus on those in the classroom.
Thank you.
Mine is just a quick one. In the strategies to accelerate learning sort of universally, you have it in things like after-school programs and tutoring, but I would also add our increased preschool programming, because that is a very valid strategy used to accelerate learning for our kids. And I think that it's an important one to note as we start looking at the data of those kids as they move through.
And I would add to that the preschool programming that's offered by the district home visiting program for any family who lives in the district with a child from birth to kindergarten. So
We were just discussing that today. The Parents as Teachers program is really the first part of our triangle around MTSS and making sure that parents have access to the information to promote healthy child development. And also within the Parents as Teachers, the whole goal is school readiness and kindergarten readiness, and they have standards that are aligned to what the standards are expected when students enter school. So we have a lot of good pieces in place, and as we continue to increase preschool, and we've also added another section of our integrated preschool program where we're helping students and families early on so that we increase readiness when they get to us. So thank you for bringing those points out.
Thank you very much.
Thank
One? Yes. Sure.
Hello, I'm Jessica Almeida. Just two quick questions. The achievement coaches that are referred to in the strategies to accelerate learning in ELA, is that referring to the new coaching positions that were established this year?
Yes.
Can you just, because I've received conflicting information. So are the coaches for the students directly, or are the coaches for the teachers in turn to teach the students?
They're to support teaching. So they're meeting with staff, they're doing professional development, they're in classrooms modeling for staff. As Dr. Santa was talking about, we have all these resources and tools. Some of them are new to our staff, and so our coaches get trained on how to use it, and then they go in and model it for our staff. So they're really a support to improve instruction.
Okay. And then second, the Mount Hope High School, do they now have SAT prep, or we never had SAT prep before? Is that new to the school?
So I don't know, it's not new. We started it last December, since I don't know if they did it prior to, they may have done it before that.
So SAT prep has been a standalone lecture for some time at Mount Hope. The way in which it's being used as we go forward, and we're starting to use it much more as an intervention as well.
Okay.
So starting to look at the data and identify students who would benefit and start coaching kids to identify kids who could benefit from that. So we're starting to use it more as a support.
Okay, so it was always there, but
Always been
it's
there.
possibly being used in a
Used
different way.
slightly different way.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Hewitt.
Just a couple of points that that struck me. One, I hope that everybody here appreciates that never again will we ever resort to remote learning. Kids have been hurt as a result of that decision. And two, despite the noted increases in some of the ICAS scores from the different grades, I certainly hope everybody appreciates the fact that our numbers for meeting and exceeding expectations leaves a lot to be desired. Thank you.
I think we're all aware of the fact that we're
So
moving
you were on
forward.
our strategic planning process, you know that we have much higher goals than where we are today.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. No, I'm going to do that at the end.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Superintendent Riley, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'm actually going to share my time with Mr. Morrell, but I'll do it, two quick intros on our new facility shift supervisor. I know that Frank is really excited, but we are promoting Marco Antonio, who is one of our maintenance workers, will now be our new facility shift supervisor. And we will have our own on-staff athletic trainer, Ms. Christina Ketty, will be joining us as of tomorrow. So we're excited to have an on-staff athletic trainer. We've been contracting for that position, and we hadn't had much luck with our consulting firm, so we're really excited to have our own. And I know, Mr. Morrell, if you'd like to do some quick intro to your new assistants, yes, that would be great.
There's a spring in his step tonight.
I know, even at 8 o'clock at night. It's past my bedtime. Thank you, Superintendent Riley. And I'd like to thank the committee at this time publicly for your support of Kikamuit, your continued support. We've seen the growth that we've made, and I'm so happy to add 2 new staff members to my administrative team. Vincent Demora is joining us from Attleboro. Lincoln Demora is joining us from,
They're one person.
it's late, it's late. So Lincoln Demora is joining us from Attleboro Public Schools. He earned his master's at the Citadel in South Carolina and pursuing a doctorate right now at JWU, Johnson & Wales. So we're really happy to have Lincoln, and also Vincent Verato, who earned his degree at Providence College, is joining us from the Johnson Public Schools. I know Vincent. Vincent did his student teaching when I was the principal of Ferry Middle School in Johnston. So we're looking forward to continuing the great team, and thank you all so very much for your support. Truly appreciate it. So Vincent, Lincoln, stand up and say hello.
And Mr. Morrell promised me he'd still be smiling till the last day of school. So. Oh, Marco was here too. Marco!
Yeah. In the back.
Hiding, Marco, thank you, congratulations.
It's an exciting night.
Yes, it is.
All right. Under discussion and action items, I need a motion to approve and seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The next thing is the standardized monthly financial report. Yes, Mr. Ferrucci?
I was going to say, somebody ask him a question.
Let's go look. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. It's really quick. Standard monthly reports, there's not anything really outlying to report on. I did have one variance noted about the care and management of the high school football field in there and whether it was budgeted or not in the past. That will be an issue going into next school year for consideration now that that contract has expired. This is the last year. More importantly, as you know, we're going to do a year-end projection report, which is more critical for your planning for the remainder of the school year. We're targeting the December meeting. We figured the 28th was too soon after Thanksgiving. It'll give us an opportunity to meet the new school committee members, answer questions. So we'll target December 12th. That one should be more in-depth conversation this evening. The only thing I really do need this evening is the approval of the transfers because we're doing them outside the objects. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? All right, could I have a motion to accept the
Budget
transfer?
transfers.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I didn't set any meetings for December because then that would be the purview of the new chair. So that's why you see nothing for December right now.
Yep.
But I will.
We figured there would be at least one, so we scheduled.
Well, I think it's important,
Yeah.
but that will be,
You got it.
okay?
Yep.
All right, everybody, good. The next item is to approve policy JLIF, suicide prevention, and policy JLIFE, Rhode Island model policy on suicide prevention, at the recommendation of the Policy and Curriculum Subcommittee for a second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The last one on this part of the agenda is to approve policy JLCD, medical marijuana administration in schools, and JLCDE, procedure for administration of medication to students, at the recommendation of the Policy and Curriculum Subcommittee, second reading.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. That does not conclude our meeting, however, because you'll notice I put something to the end, and that was an appreciation presentation for outgoing school committee members and current, and me. Before we start that, Mrs. Schofield indicated to me that she had something she wanted to say, and I told her she was welcome to do it from her seat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Felt like after 8 years, I I just
You
wanted
can
to
say-
say something, even though it's a small crowd, and just to thank you. And anyways, my husband has forever jokingly said to me that my autobiography would be called "Thank You for Having Me." So I just want to start out by saying thank you for having me. Parents and guardians, students, teachers, school and district administrators, my school committee colleagues, all my fellow community members, thanks for trusting me with your concerns, sharing your personal stories with me, your triumphs, your challenges, your frustrations over the last 8 years. I never took your words lightly. And a big, gigantic thank you to my incredible husband and 3 amazing, kind, understanding, resilient daughters, one of whom attended Monday night policy meetings with me for 4 years. For dinner afterwards, but, but still. And has dealt with things during my 2 terms on this committee that neither she nor any child, I think, should have had to deal with. I love you, my precious family. I also want to congratulate the newest members of the school committee, Jessica Almeida and Adam McGovern. Jessica's here with us tonight from Bristol. Adam. Oh, hi, Adam. Congratulations, truly. And to Kyle Jackson from Warren, along with my colleague, incumbent Carly Reich, back for another 4 years. Just a few more words. No one who isn't passionate or ready to work runs for this position. And everyone who runs has a reason to run. You just have to get involved to this degree and to put in this much time. Just some humble advice from a gal who's been doing this for a while. Put your personal goals and personal agendas in the back seat for now and invite some students into the passenger seat. Let's stop saying this isn't about politics, it's about the kids. It's disingenuous. Every individual is political just by nature of being a human being with personal beliefs, religions, biases, and opinions. Our kids would tell us that. Let's start saying, let's bring students in on this. Let's hear from them. They're the ones on the front lines, and they're the benefactors for better or worse of every decision we make up here. In my perfect world, perhaps, there would be 9 students sitting up here, sharing their vision for their schools, what they want and their peers want, what they want their schools to look like, feel like, how and what they want to learn, and how they want to support one another despite their differences. We want them to learn how to do this, right? I think so. So that when they're sitting up here someday, they're sitting here in a spirit of caring and collaboration, because that's how the real work gets done. You want to take out the politics and personal agendas and focus for real on the kids, what they want, need, and deserve. You want them to feel safe and valued and smart and respected. You want them to respect authority, their peers, and their school buildings. Give them a seat, a meaningful one, not just a symbolic one, at the table. Let's stop presuming what our kids need and ask them what they need. They're the whole reason we're here. Again, thanks so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Thanks, Sharon. That was you. That was very nice. Yeah. You're silent, Victor. Victor.
So on behalf of the district, we have some small tokens of appreciation. You know, just what you wanted, some new tchotchke with some school committee language on it. To thank you for your years of service to the school committee. Erin, for your 8 years. Sheila, who's not here with us tonight, for her 4 years. And Victor, for your 4 years, I'm going to say this time around. I don't know. And then also a thank you to Marge for your 2 years as chairperson of this committee. in our office at Reynolds now. And it lists all the previous chairs of the school committee. I have room for one more, people, one more. And then we'll have to get a new plaque, but all of our previous chairs are named on here, and Marge, you have been added. So Marge, you are on the plaque. Thank you for meeting with me.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Riley, and all of you who are here tonight. I congratulate Carly and Adam and Jessica and Kyle on them coming onto this committee. It'd be nice to see some new faces and some old faces, and I think we'll do just fine. I thoroughly enjoyed being on this school committee. It's been 22 years. So I will be doing the last 2 years. And I'm excited because once a couple of sessions ago, somebody asked me why I was running again. And I said, because I wasn't finished. And afterwards, they said, what are you not finished with? And what I was not finished with was what we did tonight. And I'd like to follow it through. And I'm very excited for Mr. Morrell and the people at KMS, because that was my last goal, and I think we're getting there, and that makes me feel really happy. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening, for being here, and for speaking your piece. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn, because this is the longest meeting I think I've had in months.
So moved.
Second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.